Suddenly, Isaac asked, "What are you doing?" Ruby froze. Isaac tilted his head, guessing the Romana's princess must be beaten a lot. Ruby could only smile helplessly, looking up at him fearfully, thinking, "No, anyone would be scared if you approached them that menacingly." Isaac said, "You said you wanted to watch me quietly." Ruby replied, "I just wanted to see you." Hearing that, Isaac asked with interest, "Then why did you close your eyes? Were you expecting a kiss?" Ruby just chuckled, thinking, "Nice try, Rudbeckia. Yeah, there's no way I'd actually expect that. You might kill me on the spot." She wondered, how many ways are there to get me out of this situation? Ruby replied, "Well, it seems like you're angry because of me, so..." Isaac asked, "So you thought I would hit you?" Seeing her not answer, Isaac's eyes sharpened as he asked, "And yet you said you liked me?" Ruby stammered, wondering, "Is that not allowed?" She began, "The first time you protected me..." Before she could finish her sentence, a voice suddenly called out, "Sir!" Andy hurried toward Isaac. Isaac asked, "What is it?" Andy replied hesitantly, "I think you should come see this." Without another word, both of them turned and left. Seeing that, Ruby breathed a sigh of relief. "Great, I'm alive." Suddenly, Isaac stopped, turned, and told her, "Wait here for a moment." Ruby waved goodbye to him. "Wait here? He still has something to say to me?" After the two of them left, she sat down somewhere, looking at the bouquet in her hand. Ruby gazed at the flowers pensively and said, "These flowers, they are the same as my name, the flower that means eternal happiness." Ruby thought, how childish. Suddenly, some force pushed her. Then Ruby fell into the lake. The cold water seeped into her skin as panic surged through her. "Am I going to die like this?" she thought fearfully. "Will my life end so meaninglessly?" She should have felt terrified, but strangely she wasn't scared at all. Ruby tried to grab hold of the black ribbons around her, thinking, "It feels like they're mocking me. Why can't I take them off?" At this rate, she was sure she would suffocate. Suddenly, something entered the lake. A hand reached through the water and grabbed her. Finally, Ruby was rescued from the dangerous situation. It turned out that Isaac had saved her life. Behind them, the nobles who had witnessed the scene began to gossip. How did she end up down there? What happened? Ruby was dumbfounded, still trying to process what had just occurred. She looked at her hand, tightly clutching Isaac's shirt, and then at his angry face. "What's going on?" she thought. "Clearly what made me fall into the lake was a monster. A monster appeared inside the palace." But she knew that was the least of her worries. The real problem was the man in front of her. "It's just like the last incident. He's going to think I did it on purpose, I bet." Her voice trembled as she stammered. I was so scared." Desperate, she quickly hugged Isaac tightly, clinging to him. "You saved me again. As expected, it's only you," she shouted dramatically, her heart racing. "Do you even know I was the victim this time too?" Ruby thought bitterly. Isaac didn't say anything. Instead, he just stared down at her, making her sob softly at first, then loudly like a child. His only response was a long, helpless sigh. Early the next morning, a servant knocked on Ruby's door and called out, "Madam, are you awake?" Ruby replied, "Come in." The servant entered with a tray of food and said, "I've brought breakfast." Ruby sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes. "You didn't have to bring it up. I'm feeling a little unwell," she said, her voice still groggy. The servant nodded. "Is that so?" Ruby glanced around the room and asked, "Where's Elle?" The servant replied, "She went out early this morning." "I'll excuse myself," Ruby muttered, seeing their indifferent attitude. "Everyone is so heartless," she thought dejectedly. That cold attitude. Ruby entered the bathroom and gently dipped her feet into the warm water. As she soaked in the bathtub, she sighed contentedly. So warm. She sank deeper into the water, her mind drifting back to yesterday's events. It seems to have caused quite a commotion, she reflected. a monster attacking someone right inside the supposedly safe palace must have caused quite the panic. The center of Andal is a place where monsters shouldn't appear. The same goes for what happened on the first night I arrived here. There are too many suspicious points. In the novel, monsters don't appear so suddenly like this. Why are they only bothering me? Ruby thought, feeling unsettled. It's completely different from what happened to Ruby in the original story. If things continue like this, will people start thinking I'm a summoning witch? After her bath, Ruby changed into her clothes but suddenly sneezed. Moreover, after falling into the lake, that symptom reappeared. She felt the familiar burning sensation inside her body, as though needles were pricking her all over. It happens twice a year, ever since I entered this body. She remembered the first time she complained about feeling unwell. They had called a doctor, but the doctor only said, "Miss, you don't have a fever, and there's nothing unusual." The Pope had been worried, asking, "How can that be? She's in so much pain." The doctor had apologized helplessly. "I'm sorry, Your Holiness, but I don't know what the problem is." Ruby thought back to that moment. Other doctors had said the same thing. Her father, the Pope, had come over, gently placing his hand on her forehead. "My beloved daughter, could it be that you're lying to me because you don't want to get engaged?" She had started sweating in fear at his words. "Since then, I've had to endure it. I'm used to enduring it anyway, and the symptoms only last a few days. I can bear with it a little longer," Ruby decided. "Otherwise, that husband of mine will think I'm playing tricks. There's no need to call a doctor." Even so, since she had been lying down all morning, she felt a little better now. But one thought lingered in her mind. Speaking of which, why did he tell me to wait back there? Whatever the reason, it's unexpected for someone like him to say that, Ruby thought, remembering Isaac's words, "Wait here for a moment." She sighed helplessly. He must have forgotten because of the monster. "When water fills, you have to sail the boat," she told herself, gently opening the door. Suddenly she noticed two guards standing outside, their expressions serious. "They look scary," Ruby thought, staring at them. One of the guards asked hesitantly, "Do you need anything, madame?" Ruby smiled politely and replied, "Sorry to bother you, do you know where my husband is?" The guard hesitated, avoiding eye contact. Ruby could tell he wasn't going to answer and sighed inwardly. "Right. How could you tell me that?" The two guards exchanged troubled looks. Scene change, Elmoport. Ruby smiled graciously and said, "Thank you. I won't forget your kindness." The guard, looking nervous, thought fearfully, "If Sir Isaac knew, I wonder what he would say." Ruby peeked through the window, her curiosity piqued. "So he's here. What's he doing?" she thought. "Probably an important meeting." Inside the room, a young man held a beer mug, his face flushed with excitement as he exclaimed, "Drink another mug? Day drinking is the best." Ruby observed the scene before her with a heavy heart. Like hell. Look at them. Are they really knights? She frowned. But it has to be like this. Life is hard anyway. My husband. She scanned the room for a while until she finally spotted her husband. Her eyes rested on him, and she sighed. The problem now is how to approach him, she muttered to herself. That arrogant... Suddenly a voice startled her. "Who are you talking about?" Ruby spun around and locked eyes with the young man. She thought, who is he? Her heart jumped when Andy suddenly appeared, startling her so much that it felt like her heart might leap out of her chest. Ruby carefully observed Andy for a moment, thinking, I've seen him somewhere before. The person who went to find Isaac by the lake that day. Isn't it him? Andy apologized shyly. I thought Madam was secretly following, so I... Ruby gave him a judging look. Following me for that reason? How strange, she thought. Even so, he doesn't give off the same strange hostile feeling as Lorenzo. Andy, looking anxious, asked, Are you feeling better? Ruby smiled and replied, I'm fine now, thank you. And he smiled in relief, and Ruby thought to herself, he looks like a puppy. Then he introduced himself shyly. I'm Sir Isaac's attendant. Ruby replied cheerfully. I thought so. How long have you been working for him? Andy answered. Just recently. The previous attendant caused trouble, so I was lucky enough to replace him. Ruby asked in surprise. Caused trouble? He explained. He sang an obscene song in front of Sir Isaac. She remembered instantly. Could it be the song Lorenzo sang? Wait, does he also want to visit because of me, like Lorenzo? Ruby thought. Andy wondered aloud. But why is Madam hiding here? Ruby, caught off guard, thought, isn't it obvious? After a moment, she replied, it's not like I came to see Isaac. I just missed him so much, so I stopped by for a bit. Andy smiled and said, I understand. He looks best from afar, right? But Sir Isaac is very gentle with his wife, isn't he? He'd definitely be sad if he knew you came but didn't come to see him. Ruby forced a smile, thinking, what does gentle mean in your dictionary? She imagined Isaac looking at her with contempt, saying, that's sad, which made her wonder, does a cold-blooded person like him even know sadness? Or is Andy so beaten down by Isaac that something's broken? Ruby replied shyly, is that so? Andy made an X with his hands and said, he's not the type to beg a woman to wait for him. Her voice trembled as she said, beg? Andy replied awkwardly, don't tell him I said that, he'll kill me. Hearing that, Ruby thought dejectedly, he really does get beaten a lot. She whispered, but what are you all doing here? Andy whispered back, lately, monsters have been appearing frequently, like the incident at the palace. The other day, before Andy could finish, Isaac suddenly appeared from behind and said, why don't you just lie down flat? Both Ruby and Andy turned around, screaming in surprise. Andy stammered, Sir Isaac, flustered, exclaimed, whose husband is this perfect? Andy cheerfully chimed in, you're absolutely right. Suddenly Ivan appeared and said, is that Madam? I thought Andy was hiding here with someone to badmouth us. Ruby, feeling awkward, thought, do they do a lot of bad things? They even worry about that? Andy, looking shy, said, I'll excuse myself. Ruby forced a smile and greeted, hello, Sir Ivan. Ivan replied, are you feeling better? I was worried you'd be shocked after what happened at the lake. She responded softly, thank you for your concern. Ivan said, it's what I should do. Did you come to see this brute? He pointed at Isaac, whose face remained cold since he discovered Ruby had been secretly following him. Ruby, feeling annoyed, thought, why hasn't he changed at all? She then replied, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you, but I wanted to thank you for yesterday. Van joked, this guy should be the one thanking me. Thanks to me, he had the honor of saving Madam, right? Isaac replied coldly, it was only natural. Ruby stammered, of course it was. If I died, it would be very troublesome for you all. Isaac, not understanding, asked back, what? Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Ivan intervened. Don't be like that. Would you like to have lunch with us? This guy would be happy too. Ruby wondered, is it all right if I go? I'm afraid I'll interrupt your conversation. Ivan cheerfully replied, not at all. What interruption? Madam can do as she pleases. Suddenly, Ian called her name anxiously. Blood was flowing from her nose, but she didn't seem to notice at first. What? She asked. Drops of blood dripped onto the ground. She fearfully raised her hand to look and thought, a nosebleed? Even if I'm not feeling well, I've never had a nosebleed before. Before Ivan could call out worriedly, Madam, are you all right? Ruby quickly replied, I'm fine. She thought, having a nosebleed in front of Isaac is so unsightly, how embarrassing. But the bleeding didn't stop, and as her body swayed, she fell backward. Isaac quickly caught her. Ruby looked up at him fearfully as he called her name. Why is your body so hot? Isaac asked, concerned. Hot? That can't be. Even the doctor didn't know, so how can you? She thought. Quickly, she stood up, wiping the blood away. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to see this," she said. Isaac asked, "Who did you come here with?" "Alone, of course," Ruby replied. He pressed. "You came here alone, in this condition?" Ivan handed her a handkerchief and said, "Madam, when is the doctor arriving?" "Here's a handkerchief." Ruby smiled and replied, "Actually, I didn't tell anyone. It's not to the point where I need to call a doctor. I'm just a little dizzy. I'm sorry for worrying you." Isaac, still worried, said, "What are you talking about? Your body is burning up." Ivan scolded angrily. "Since when did your family become full of useless people? How can no one know she's this sick?" Ruby pondered. "Well, that's true. Even a renowned doctor couldn't see my symptoms. I thought it was just a side effect of living in someone else's body, but Isaac just said her body was as hot as boiling water, and he even personally wiped her nosebleed. It was both embarrassing and amazing, yet she felt so dizzy." Right after, a loud thud was heard, followed by shouts. "Madam?" Isaac held her up, shouting, "Come to your senses!" Ivan yelled, "Madam!" Ruby's thoughts swirled. Now, Her vision blurred, and she saw only the two men in front of her, trying to wake her up. She knew she had reached her limit. In Ruby's subconscious, she seemed to hear something. "Who's wailing like that? Is it Elia or some other maid? Why is she crying?" Suddenly, Ruby woke up. She sat up, thinking, "How long have I been asleep?" The crying still echoed in her ears. Someone has been crying continuously for a while now. Is it really Elia? Something's wrong. Ruby opened the door to her room and saw the doctor talking to Isaac. "Anyway, for the time being, madame." Both men turned to look at her, making Ruby think in embarrassment. Were they startled? Who would expect someone standing right in front of the door? The doctor makes sense, but why is that other gentleman glaring at me? The doctor asked, "Madam, are you all right?" Ruby replied, "Yes, but someone keeps crying." Isaac, confused, asked, "What do you mean?" Ruby explained, "I keep hearing crying. I was worried it was Elia, so I came out here." The two men stared at each other. Isaac turned to her and replied, "There's no one crying." Ruby thought fearfully, "No way. It was just a moment ago. Why did it stop now?" She stammered, "I'm not lying. It was just now." The doctor said, "She has never lied to you." Ruby thought in surprise. "Oh, he trusts me that easily?" Isaac turned to the doctor and said, "Sergi, you may leave now." Sergi bowed and replied, "Then I will return tomorrow for a checkup." Ruby said, "Please be careful." Isaac, stealthily glancing at her, wiped the sweat from her forehead. Immediately afterward, he lifted her up. Ruby was startled, not understanding what was happening. Why did he do that all of a sudden? Does he think I'm a package? Wait, I should react shyly here, right? After thinking that, she said bashfully, "You're just like a prince on a white horse." Isaac was speechless for a moment, then said, "It seems you still have a high fever." Ruby asked, "But I had a nosebleed just now, right?" Isaac paused for a moment, then replied, "Not just now. It was 3 days ago." Hearing that, Ruby thought in surprise, 3 days have already passed. She stammered, "I'm sorry for bothering you. Even so, please don't hate me. I thought it was Elia crying." Isaac replied, "Elia wasn't crying." Ruby said excitedly, "That's right, she's different from me. But I still have something I'm good at." Isaac asked curiously, "What is it?" He avoided her, continuing to walk away. Ruby smiled brightly, thinking, "It's acting." Isaac glanced at her, then suddenly said, "You mean?" Ruby asked in confusion. "Huh." Isaac, looking annoyed, walked away without saying anything. "I'll tell you later," he muttered. Ruby sat up, frustrated, cursing him in her mind. He's been acting cold toward me since last time. Immediately afterward, the door slammed shut, making Ruby feel helpless. Suddenly, a loud noise startled her. What was that? It turned out to be Isaac, banging his head against the wall. He sighed silently, as if he wanted to say something. Ruby thought to herself, I was sick for 2 more days after that. It was just a normal fever, not some annual event. She remembered being examined by Sergi, the doctor. Sergi had instructed her, Madam, you're very ill. You mustn't skip meals. You need to eat and drink properly or you'll collapse again. You absolutely must eat. Ruby thought, scolding me like that. Anyway, the result is a combination of the annual event and the fever. Maybe it's because I fell into the lake before, so the sudden nosebleed or Isaac noticing my temperature can be explained. But why am I so restless? Moreover, she was locked in her room, unable to refuse food. It's really hard work for me, she thought bitterly. To make matters worse, Elle came every hour to ensure she ate. Ruby couldn't run away or secretly vomit the food. Now that the fever has subsided, why are they still overprotecting me like this? Elle had said. Everyone was very panicked when they heard that you had collapsed. Ruby forced a smile and replied, I'm sorry for worrying, Elia. I didn't expect to act so foolishly. Elle shook her head. No, it was my carelessness. Besides, it's the first time I've ever seen my brother so shocked. Ruby thought, Isaac had that kind of expression. She imagined him sarcastically saying, finally dead. I thought he wouldn't react in any particular way, even if I died right in front of him, she thought fearfully. Elle continued, Anyway, it's fortunate you recovered faster than expected. If you're feeling better, how about joining me for the horse riding gathering this weekend afternoon? Ruby smiled and replied, Of course I'll go. Thank you for asking me, Elle. Seeing Ellen's discouraged expression, Ruby thought, I answered immediately. Ruby pondered the horse riding gathering. That Freya and Elia took me to every summer is a golden opportunity to make a good impression, something that could catch the eye of the upper class here. On the day of the horse riding gathering, the maid asked in wonder, Are you really planning to leave it like that, madame? Ruby, unsure what to do, asked back, Let's see. What else should I add? The maid looked at the jewellery box and said, It doesn't seem like something I should give you my opinion on. Ruby, noticing the maid's hesitation, said excitedly, How about you choose one for me? Since you're already doing it, choose one for yourself too. The maid, bewildered, asked, One for me? Ruby nodded in agreement and said cheerfully, Yes, you've taken such good care of me when I was sick. She thought, Oh well, this image is ruined. Ruby continued, Even if I have them, I don't have the opportunity to use them, so I can give them as a thank you gift. Choose anyone you like. If others find out, it'll become troublesome, so it's a secret between us. After Ruby finished speaking, the maid quickly took a piece of jewellery. She glanced at Ruby and thought, This one definitely looks the best. As long as it's a gift from Chaser, it doesn't matter what I take. The maid shyly replied, Thank you, madame. Ruby smiled happily and replied, Take it. Then, as she thought about it, she asked, How long have you been working here? The maid replied, 3 years. Ruby continued curiously, Then you must know the head maid well. How long has she been working here? The maid replied, That person? Oh no, the head maid has been here since the young master and young lady were little. I heard she was originally the young lady's nanny. Ruby forced a smile, thinking, It seems like she's not very satisfied with the head maid, she said. I see. Thank you. You can go now. After the maid bowed and left, Ruby mused. I think that incident could only have been a loyal maid in disguise. If she's Elia's nanny, her feelings for the siblings would be different. I'm even more dissatisfied if the person who extinguished the torch in my room that night was a criminal disguised as a maid. That would be ridiculous. Rare Deer in the original story was never like this. Did they think I was an easy target? I'm speechless. Ruby thought, this writing group, no matter where young nobles use horse riding as an excuse to build relationships, it's no different from a picnic, gathering information and looking for lovers, a social club where horses are just a front. At the last banquet in the palace I was quite unremarkable, so I'll just keep pushing like this. Suddenly Freya appeared, calling her name. She approached Ruby cheerfully and said, "It's good that you've recovered, madam. You don't know how worried I was when I heard you were ill. I really wanted to visit you, but I was afraid of bothering you, so I didn't go." Ruby replied, "Bother me? Anyway, thank you for worrying about me." Freya said happily, "It's good that you've recovered, isn't it, Madeline?" Ruby looked at the scene before her and thought, so even a horse can have eyes like a rain-soaked puppy. As expected, the main character's childhood friend has to be special. The others are only thinking about stealing Freya's position from me. Ruby didn't know that Ellen was silently watching her. Ellen gently placed her hand on Ruby's shoulder and said, "They're all trained horses, so you can choose whichever one you like, except for the ones on the right." Ruby glanced over and replied, "So it's those ones?" Ellen replied, "Because those are my brother's personal horses." Ruby said, dazed, "I see." Freya asked worriedly, "But wouldn't it be too much for Madam to ride the others? She's just recovered." Ellen said, "Madam won't be riding for long, so it shouldn't be a problem, but if possible, let me choose the most obedient one. Cedric." As soon as she finished speaking, a servant appeared. Ruby glanced at the horses and thought to herself, "The most obedient horse? Which one is it? Even the horses are discriminating against me. I hate you guys too. No, I have to control myself." Freya greeted Isaac when she saw him arrive. Isaac replied grumpily, "You're quite cheerful this early in the morning. What are you doing?" Freya replied, "Your beloved wife intends to spend time with us today. If you're lonely, you can join us too." Isaac asked, "Why?" Before her was Isaac's frowning face, but she said cheerfully, "You look very handsome today. Are you going somewhere?" Isaac replied, "No, I'm resting, so I'm not doing anything." Ruby thought in confusion. "Then why are you here?" she said. "I'm choosing a horse to participate in the riding gathering. Come with me." Isaac rumpily responded, "I'm busy." Ruby fumed, cursing him in her mind. "You just said you had nothing to do. What a contradiction," she asked. "But I can choose any horse, right?" Isaac asked, "Do you know how to judge horses?" Ruby replied shyly, "No, I don't have any talent for judging horses at all." She thought to herself, "That's why I fell for you, even though it's just pretend." Isaac and Ellen looked at each other silently. Then Ellen spoke up. "Dr. Sergi said it would be all right with this, so brother, choose a horse and take Ruby. I have to go to Fang first." Freya said worriedly, "But Elia..." She looked bewildered, not understanding what was happening. Ellen ignored her and said to Freya, "Let's go." Ruby thought to herself, "Hey, wait a minute. Elia, are you really just going to leave like that? Are you leaving me with this monster?" She stammered, "I'm sorry, it's my fault. I'll go home first." Isaac asked, "Where are you going?" Cedric, the servant, bowed and replied, "Yes, sir." Isaac continued, "Go outside." Cedric, bewildered, replied, "Yes, sir." Isaac pointed behind him impatiently and said, "I said, go outside." Cedric replied fearfully, "Yes, sir." Ruby watched Cedric's retreating figure and thought to herself, why did he leave too? If that's the case, then there are only two of us left. I really hate the stables, especially when I'm alone with a tyrant. It was the same in my past life and it's the same in this life. Ruby remembered Chaser saying, "Do you know what you did wrong?" She thought, because I had to go through the same terrible things, I can't get caught up in the hurt and ruin everything, so I have to endure it. Suddenly Isaac called her name. Her expression was strange. Chaser's voice rang out in her mind, "I told you not to frown." Isaac walked past her and said, "Forget it. First, come here." The voice continued, "Come here, you ignorant girl." Isaac continued, "Try climbing up once." Chaz's voice echoed in her head, "Come here, quickly." Isaac went on, Because you're an idiot. That's the only way to deal with you, Chaser continued. For a fool like you who doesn't know gratitude or duty, there's only one way to punish you. Ruby fearfully tried to reassure herself. It'll be okay because I said I like Isaac. I can endure it. I was beaten a lot during that time. Isaac, unaware of what was happening, lightly said, "Looks like the most stubborn one." But surprisingly, before he could finish, Ruby suddenly collapsed to the ground. Isaac asked, "What are you doing?" Ruby replied fearfully, "I'm sorry. I deserve to die. It's all my fault. I wasn't grateful and understanding." Isaac frowned in confusion. Ruby continued to mutter, "I really can't be saved." Silence filled the stable. Isaac looked at Ruby, trembling before him in astonishment. He guessed that Ruby had been frequently whipped while in Romania. Ruby realized she had misspoken and became terrified. Isaac gripped the whip tightly in his hand and decisively threw it far away. Isaac asked angrily, "Why did you bring that here?" Ruby stammered, "Because there's only one. If you tell me where the others are, I'll bring them next time." Isaac grew even angrier. "Bring the others and tell me what to do with it." Ruby was so scared that she was sweating bullets, apologizing profusely out of instinct. Seeing her like this, Isaac couldn't help but curse in frustration. Ruby immediately covered her mouth, not daring to utter a word. After calming down, Isaac extended his hand and gently pulled Ruby into his arms, telling her to breathe slowly and calm down. Ruby clenched her hands, telling herself that she had been through this many times and there was nothing to be afraid of. Isaac didn't understand why Ruby, being so scared, still wanted to participate in the horse riding. Ruby gave a small, strained smile. "I just wanted to meet new people." Isaac looked doubtful. "You already know everyone here." Suddenly, Isaac handed Ruby an apple. Ruby looked at the apple in her hand, bewildered. Isaac turned his back and walked away, saying, "You said you wanted to choose a horse, right? My horses are all very valuable." Ruby looked solemnly at the apple in her hand, feeling that her fear had been for nothing. She asked if she could ride Isaac's horse, and he unexpectedly agreed readily. Ruby looked at the horse, worried that it wouldn't let a stranger ride it. Isaac spilled the beans. "If you feed it an apple, it won't recognize its owner." Ruby held the apple in front of the horse and said, "I'll give you this, so please be gentle with me." Isaac quietly observed her from the side. He realized that Ruby seemed to like that horse very much. Ruby explained, "It's because it looks very handsome." Isaac turned and called Cedric back. Cedric hurried over when he heard his name. Isaac said calmly, "I'll go with you." Ruby couldn't hide her joy and asked, "Is that okay? Will you really take me?" Isaac replied indifferently, "I'm resting, so I have nothing to do. It's fine to go for a bit." Ruby remembered that Isaac had said he was busy earlier. Isaac made a bold statement, "I was busy in my mind." Ruby was astonished. She didn't expect this kind of person to exist. The next scene showed the two of them riding horseback, one in front and one behind. Ruby thought to herself, "Isn't this a big step forward? At first, he hated even making eye contact with me." She reminded herself that she had to keep working hard so that Isaac wouldn't lose interest in her. Everyone around them, witnessing the scene, gathered and started gossiping. Their faces were filled with horror, as if they had seen something terrible. Some even asked each other if they were hallucinating. One person was so shocked that they spat out the wine they had just drunk, unable to believe their eyes. Ruby didn't need to turn around to feel the intense energy from the person behind her. Even Ellen and Freya couldn't hide their astonishment. Ellen was the first to speak. "What's going on, brother?" Isaac slowly approached and said, "I have a responsibility to correct what you've done." Ellen was slightly annoyed. "Don't tell me you came back because of my fault." Isaac corrected her words. "I didn't come here because of your fault." Ellen gave Isaac a burning glare without hesitation. "Then what do you want me to do?"